Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the South Side. Bob Pompiani joined today, of course, by Missy Matthews as we conduct the final press conference of this season. Mike Tomlin will address the media, and Missy, it's coming off a disappointing 31-17 loss at Buffalo. They were in the game late, although they fell behind early, and once again, it seems like it's a hole too deep to get out of.
Yeah, when you make mistakes, the fumble, the turnovers, when you're going against Josh Allen, who entering that game was 16-0, when he doesn't have a turnover, you knew what was going to happen, especially with those 3 touchdowns that they pretty much got very quickly. It was just very disappointing, obviously, riding that 3-game winning streak, the excitement of making it to the playoffs. It did feel like when they were, within a score that they were going to be able to hopefully bring it back, but unfortunately it did not work.
No, and we head into an offseason now with a lot of issues, typical of most NFL teams, and that'll be part of what Mike Tomlin addresses today. Some of the moves potentially they're going to have to make, and you get to the, you have free agents, you have people you may want to move on from, and then of course Mason Rudolph is probably the biggest name free agent out there, and he had a really good stretch of games, 3 to win at the end of the season. And I thought he stood tall in the second half of that game. Even though they fell behind, he put them in a position where they're down 7. It'd be interesting to see what happens in this offseason, knowing that he doesn't have a contract.
Yeah, for sure. And there's, I think, a 14 or 16 free agents. He's the big one also, Miles Killebrew, who made the Pro Bowl and All-Pro. We've seen what he's been able to do to help impact games as well, along with some other guys. But it unfortunately is the point of the season where Coach Tomlin is conducting his exit interviews with all the different players, the staff, and unfortunately the train's going fast and that it stops and other teams are still playing and you're not, and you have to just start the process, start over.
And part of that process is also going to be coaching staff, knowing that they don't have an offensive coordinator per se. They've had 2 guys who've done a very good job at handling it, play calling, and you saw the point production go up with Mike Sullivan calling the plays, Eddie Faulkner, those guys combining. And I wonder if that's something they will stay with or go and look nationally, for a big name out there who could come in and take over the offense. Bottom line is that's going to be one of the things Mike Tomlin talks about. We'll be back after he speaks to break it down. Right now, let's go to Mike Tomlin upstairs with his final press conference.
Good afternoon. In a little better mood today, man. Anybody got any contract questions? I'll say this. I certainly could have handled that situation better than I did, but I'll also say this. I just believe there's a time and place for everything, and post-game press conferences are probably not the place to address contract issues and things of that nature. It's just a very individual thing, and on game day, I doubt any of us are in that mindset. Certainly I am not. What's required to do what it is that we do, the amount of focus pouring into a collective, I'm just not in that mind state, and I just don't believe that's the appropriate venue to talk about things of that nature. I'm certainly open and willing to do it today in this venue. In assessing our last performance in the season, I'm proud of the guys. I'm proud of their fight. I'm certainly disappointed that we're not preparing to play this week. I know that they are. It comes to a screeching halt. These are awkward days kind of at the end of the season. And so we're finding our footing. We're doing appropriate things. Exit interviews, I'm in the midst of beginning those things with players and staffing. The players themselves are exiting appropriately, meeting with coaches, departmental meetings, training staff, equipment, strength and conditioning, et cetera, nutrition. Those are the things that kind of go on this time of year in an effort to review what transpired, to gather information, all so that when the time is right, man, we start building for 2024. We do so with that information, with those lessons learned, with that experience individually and collectively. And so we got a lot of work ahead of us. There were some things to be proud of. Obviously, there's some things that require a lot of attention and work. But first and foremost, man, we got to information gather. We got to assess what transpired. Those who are lacking health obviously have to address that sooner rather than later. We're not into medical issues lingering into the off season. We probably have a few surgery scheduled. I don't have that list. Nothing major, some cleanup procedural things, but nothing major. TJ's rehabilitation is going well. He probably would have been available had we played this week. Got a couple guys in the concussion protocol from the last performance, Joey Porter Jr. And Allen Robinson. I imagine that is running its course. The rest of the things are exit interview in nature, cleanups, etc. We got some guys that are on IR, that have been on IR, that their rehabilitation processes are running their courses. From a coaching perspective, obviously, things never stay the same. I'm appreciative of this collective and what they were willing to do, all the while understanding that there will be changes. I think those of us that are in this business understand that, and we'll thoughtfully and intentionally go about that, just really at the infancy of that as well, in terms of gathering information about outside candidates and what the process of interviewing looks like in 2024, particularly from the coordinator perspective. There's some procedural things that you got to go through in an effort to be in compliance with New York. We'll respect those things and go about those things appropriately. But more than anything, man, I'm just disappointed we're not working. I understand the road gets narrow, but man, we worked 12 months to be on it, and we have to acknowledge that we're not. There are consequences of that, obviously, and so it's tough, but we're built for it. This is the life we chose, man. It's an honor to lead this group, to chase what it is that we're chasing continually. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, do you foresee either Eddie or Mike Sullivan being candidates for the offensive coordinator job?
Not at this juncture, man. I'm looking at outside candidates and lining up the pecking order there. I am appreciative of their efforts in terms of what they did for us down the stretch, but I'm looking at outside candidates at this juncture.
Mike, will Kenny resume his QB1 status?
He will, but obviously there will be competition. There's always competition in this thing. We don't anoint anyone. Man, I'm appreciative of his efforts and where he is and excited about continuing to work with him. But certainly he will be challenged from a competition perspective moving forward. Competition brings the best out in all of us.
Hope of the franchise that Rudolph will be there?
I'm sorry?
Is it the hope of the franchise that Mason Rudolph will be back in providing that competition?
It is, but he is a free agent, and it is free agency. And so we'll see where that leads us.
Mike, you told the guys the other day in the meeting, I guess, that you intend to be back, disregard the rumors that were floating out there. You expect to get an extension this year?
Yes, I expect to be back, and I would imagine that those contract things are going to run their course, man. Art and I have a really good, transparent relationship. We communicate continually, often. I don't imagine it's going to be an issue, and I imagine it's going to get done in a timely manner at the appropriate time. But, my mindset is to coach this football team, certainly.
Deontay Johnson said that he hopes Mason Rudolph gets the job. Do you worry about a competition situation potentially dividing the room or the team?
I do not. I think competition is good. I think it's good and for all of us. I think it brings out the best in all of us.
Do you expect that competition to be between Rudolph and Kenny, or are you trying to bring someone else in, whether that be draft or elsewhere?
Again, we've got a lot of decisions regarding free agency. Mason is scheduled to be a free agent, and so I'd be speculating about some of those things.
Mike, what are the things you're looking for in a new offensive coordinator? Where do you feel like you guys need to evolve as an offense?
I want us to be versatile and dynamic. Obviously, we got to score more points. I want to be able to keep defenses off balance. I want to utilize all the talent that we have at our disposal. I'm excited about this process and the talent pool out there based on what I've seen thus far. I'm really open to kind of learning through this process, man, and seeing what people have to say about their visions. And so certainly have a vision of what it looks like, but certainly open to learning through this process.
Mike, you've gone in-house for these last couple of coordinator hires. Why go outside this time?
I just feel it's appropriate.
Mike, how do you evaluate decisions about your future, contract status aside, but at the conclusion of each season, how do you make that decision, and how has that changed over the course of your career?
I don't know that it has. I coach football, that's what I do. I'm respectful of the position that I hold. I have no sense of entitlement in terms of what I do. I just got a high level of respect for what we all do in this space, and I try to earn it daily, and I think that's just my mentality. I don't ponder a lot of things. I'm appreciative of things daily, and I try to work with urgency daily, and I don't know that that has changed. It probably hasn't from my perspective. I'm always on go.
Mike, when it comes to hiring an offensive coordinator, who will be some of the people having a say in that decision?
Be a small group. It'd be obviously myself, Art Rooney, and Omar Khan.
Would you prefer that this person have prior NFL coordinating experience with your last two hires?
Yes.
Mike, would you consider adding to your offensive staff, maybe someone that could help oversee or bring new ideas?
Certainly. I'm looking at all components of staffing as part of the annual end of the season review, and additions in terms of expertise are certainly a component of that.
Mike, did Rudolph change your perception of him or what he might be capable of this year?
Oh, certainly. I don't think that any of us can deny what we've seen over the last month or so. I cannot underscore how impressive it is to be ready. Forget performance, man, to be ready to deliver. And he was, and that preparedness showed. And so certainly, we're less speculative about his capabilities because there's evidence of it, and evidence of it in tough circumstances.
He came into two training camps and came out as the number 3 quarterback. When he got to play, he gave you some of the best results you've gotten. Give you some pause or pressure to look into the processes that led you to deciding he was going to be the number 3 the last 2 years?
No, man. Oftentimes I say there's a fine line between being a Pro Bowler and a backup in our business, and it is. And so, I'm not surprised by anything that has transpired, man. He is very capable. They all are across positions. I just think that when you're at the tip top of the food chain, that's how it is. And it's our job as professionals, man, to be ready and to let our talent show. He did those things.
What's your confidence level in Kenny, not just on the field, but everything that comes with being starting quarterback, captain, leader in this team?
I'm extremely confident in him. I feel stronger about some of the intangible things than I did, obviously, when we first started doing business with him because I have evidence of it. He's highly competitive and professional. He doesn't run from challenges. He runs to challenges. I think that's evident in the way he plays, particularly at the end of close football games. He's got good framework to work with, and for a young guy, he's mature beyond his years. I'm excited about him.
Mike, that being said, is he at the point in his career now where there's some of the improvement has to be tangible, not just?
Certainly, it's a big year for him. We met this morning, and we acknowledged that. It is a huge year for him. But I'm also excited about just watching him wear that component of it because I know how he's wired and built, and I'm excited about watching him attack it.
Mike, the last 4 times you guys have been in the playoffs, it's been a one and done. What is the goal of this organization moving forward, and what's being done to kind of get there?
We want to be world champions. Every year we build with that intention. We're not this year. So there's disappointment, obviously, with that. There's consequences of that. We're really just at the beginning stages of assessing the why and then continually plotting a course to move forward. Those will be our intentions in 2024, to be world champions.
Mike, of your goals in 2023, what did you accomplish?
You know, I'm not looking to seek comfort. We wanted to be world champs. The tournament is still ongoing and we're not in it. And so from that perspective, we fell short. And so I'm less concerned about some of the boxes we checked. And really, I'm just at the information gathering stage of all of this in an effort to position ourselves where we're not having this conversation, 12, 13 months from now.
Mike, you got some really powerful endorsements from your players over the last couple of days, and that's not necessarily anything new, but just to continue to hear that from your guys, what does it mean to you to instill that back into the locker room?
I don't know what you're referring to, but, you cannot have unique results without unique relationships. What we seek is unique. And so what we give better be unique. And I better be at the front of that line. And I'm a willing participant in that way.
Like in that same vein, while the players were unanimous in supporting you and the coaching staff, several also mentioned that they think there should be changes to rules regarding structure and discipline. How do you incorporate that feedback into your off-season evaluation?
I do annually. That's what these exit interviews are about. One man's perspective is just one man's perspective, but I meet with everyone, and somewhere in there lies reality. And I'm always open to changing and doing what's necessary in an effort to move this collective forward in an effort to be world champs next year, certainly.
From your perspective, do there need to be changes dealing with structure and discipline to
There certainly need to be changes. We can't do the same things and expect a different result. I'm open and willing to that, certainly.
When you're looking for a coordinator, how much is it based on trying to get the best out of your quarterback or Kenny?
It's a significant component of it. This game is quarterback-driven. Offenses are quarterback-driven. And so their expertise in that area is a significant component of the search from my perspective.
Mike, you talked about adding the offensive coordinator search. Is there any plans to change any of the defensive staff moving forward?
I'm not going to speculate about staffing at this juncture. I just acknowledge, man, that things change this time of year. It's just a component of our business at this level, and I'm sensitive and respective to it.
Like you mentioned being always on go. Has that level of go changed at all from year 1 to year 18 going into year 18?
I was probably intensified, to be quite honest with you. Man, I just see things with greater clarity through experience. And so it's probably intensified.
The reason I ask is the stuff that was coming from outside of this room was that you might need a year off, you might be burned out. Is there any sense, I don't see that, is there any sense of that from within, from your own perspective?
You guys are probably better equipped to understand the origins of some of that stuff than I am, to be quite honest with you. I understand speculation is a component of what it is that we do. I try not to get caught up in it or distracted by it, particularly when it's not where I'm at. And so that's been my mindset regarding it.
Did you tell anyone you planned to take a year off?
No.
Mike, we've asked you about Kenny and Mason. Where are things with Mitch from a franchise's point of view, and what has he communicated to you?
I haven't met with Mitch yet, and so we're at the very early stages of some of that stuff. We'll see where the roads lead us.
Mike, the games that Rudolph quarterback, did the approach become more aggressive? Did the play calling change significantly, or did he just maybe perform at a higher level of consistency than the other two guys?
He performed very well, but our intentions were our intentions, There was no tomorrow. And so we were aggressive in nature and in about every component of what it is that we did over that stretch.
In hindsight, it was a little too much protect the ball and not enough score the ball? Or?
I'll assess all of those things, but we're just at the very infancy of reviewing. You can paint with a broad brush sometimes, and that's probably not my style. I'm just probably more slow moving in terms of information gathering and assessing what transpired, all in an effort to do it better the next time.
If you plan to continue to jump into the scouting stuff and the pro days and the combine stuff right after this?
Absolutely.
Mike, do you view Broderick Jones as your left tackle next season, or do you think he'll stay on the right side?
Undecided as of yet. Obviously, he has capabilities in that area, but he was more than capable at right tackle as well.
Mike, are you at the point where you might go year to year with what you want to do, or do you still look at the big picture and you'll stay as long as they'll have you?
Who, me, myself, personally? Man, I just like coming to work, man. My card key works. I'm going to keep doing so. I'm just probably, I don't spend a lot of time from a big picture perspective. I just don't.
Mike, is there an importance, though, to have an extension just as you're interviewing OC candidates and also looking at free agents and they know there's some stability?
No question. That's a component of it. You know, fielding less questions from you guys regarding those things is a component of it. But that's probably the only level of importance for me, to be quite honest with you. You know, security is cool, but it's not a top priority for me. I've seen a lot. I'm not job scared, but it does provide less questions and things of that nature, certainly.
At other times that you've had extensions, it's usually taking place at St. Vincent. Do you need to get it done earlier because of the things we just discussed?
It'll get done when it gets done. I'm not going to speculate about that, and you know that's not a top priority for me, to be quite honest with you, in terms of the timeliness of it.
Before they all got hurt, did you like what you were seeing from the collective at the inside linebacker position? And would you like to try to re-conglomerate that whole group?
You know, we were getting better production from that group, ball production, forced fumbles, turnovers, interceptions, etc. But the attrition component was a treacherous thing to navigate, and so you know we got some decisions to make around that position, particularly in others. But the health factor was significant.
Pulled back by training camp?
He has a target date in terms of readiness there, but it's still probably early. I'll have a more definitive posture on that probably when we get closer to OTAs and we start speculating about some of those things then.
Mike, I know you said it'll be a competition most likely, but do you believe that next year's quarterback is currently on your roster?
Yes.
How would you assess as an overall class your rookies this year?
You know, I thought we got quality production from them. In many instances, they didn't wilt, which was good. We were thoughtful about their participation in most instances early on in an effort so that they could be available for us down the stretch. That played out relatively well, to be quite honest with you. I'm excited about the group, guys in that group. I think they got bright futures ahead of them, and I'm excited about being a component of their development.
Mike, you feel the gap between yourself, this team, and the teams that are playing this weekend is smaller than it was a year ago?
Than it was a year ago? Certainly. But we're watching and not playing. And so, you know, there's work to be done.
You've been in this pocket for a while, and this sort of, you know, like right around a little over 500 in the playoffs, but not for very long. Can that, as opposed to being, 3-14 and having to blow it up, can that make it more difficult to piece together what needs to be done to get you guys to close that gap?
It all sucks. It does. There's not degrees of suck. It all sucks. I'd rather be working. The thought of going to Mobile turns my stomach. Not that I dislike Mobile, but I know what it's like when you're working and you're not in Mobile. It's a really good feeling to be in that tournament as the road gets narrow and to be living out the things that you aspired to live out over the last 12 months. And so it's not us, and it sucks.
7 straight years of that, not advancing in the dance. Mike, what gives you confidence you're still the right guy for here?
51 years of life. I mentioned that, I think, in this setting earlier. I'm not lacking confidence in my ability to do the job, while at the same time there's frustration because I want that confetti for this group. And so whatever we got to do it, whatever changes need to be made, I'm open to it.
You talk about wanting some confetti for the group. How much does specifically a guy like Cam Hayward, been here for a long time, sort of heart and soul of the team, if he does decide to come back, how much does wanting that guy to experience a championship now as opposed to in the next 2 or 3 years?
I think I always move in that urgency. I think you can point to guys like that annually that are deserving of being champions, and you want them to have that taste. It's probably one of my biggest regrets professionally is that Marquise Pouncey, for example, is not a world champion, because that guy is. And so that is a motivating factor for me, certainly, but continually it is.
Mike, did you guys find anything, the front office changed a little bit? Did you find anything that you may have changed in the evaluation process, be especially impactful with last year's draft? And do you think maybe you have a better beat on that now?
There certainly were some changes. You know, I view some of those changes as beneficial, but, you know, we'll be continually assessing that. I'm excited about getting into this process with that group again. There's usually improvement, man, second lap around the track. And so I'm excited about moving forward with them.
Mike, along those lines, looking at the moves that Omar Khan has made in the year and a half or so since he's been GM, what's your confidence level in his ability to help with the roster construction to get you guys to that next level?
I'm very confident.
Mike, what's your confidence in Joey Porter, just seeing his progress throughout the year to take on the different assignments that you guys have given?
I'm really excited about the trajectory of his career. Probably the most impressive component of where he is his mindset. He wants to fight. He wants the tough coverage. He's extremely competitive in that way. And that's a great place to build from. He's got growth obviously ahead of him, but that's real solid.
You guys have a fifth-year decision on Najee coming up. How do you assess how he's performed early through his first couple seasons?
Man, he's been what we needed him to be. I read a stat, I think, you know, he's 1,000-yard rusher 3 straight years, and how scarce that is. And I just think that speaks to his consistency, availability. He's been really solid.
Patrick Peterson's under contract. Do you expect him back? Is he now a safety or a cornerback? Is he anticipating?
Again, you know, we're really at the infancy of these things. I did meet with Pat. We had a good exit interview. I'm really appreciative of his experience and professionalism and who he is as a man and player, what he's willing to do. But from a decision-making standpoint, we're just really at the infancy of it all from that standpoint.
Do you think it was difficult for Kenny the last couple of weeks? I mean, he obviously was healthy enough to play, and didn't. How do you think he handled that, and did that make him hungry?
It certainly was difficult. I was really impressed with the way he handled it. He was really professional and supportive of Mason. He was a great teammate. But no question that was difficult, man. He's a competitor. He runs to it, not away from it. And, you know, certainly I know he wanted that experience, those big divisional games down the stretch and things of that nature. He's wired in that way.
Some of the self-evaluation that goes on this time of year to avoid being in a position like, you know, Will was talking about, where you're going into the playoffs as a 7, where you're going to Buffalo, you're going to Kansas City on the road. How much of an importance is there, you use the phrase often, be light on your feet during the regular season when changes need to present themselves? Like, for instance, when you're going through the rough time, the 3-game losing streak in early December. Do you guys have to be a little bit more quick in times like that to react?
You know, you always face challenges during the course of a season. They're always different and ever-changing and complex. I think you got to continually have a hardcore plan while being light on your feet from a change perspective, while at the same time you can't blow in the wind. And so there's a delicate balance there, if you will. And I'm comfortable walking that. It's always different because the variables are many and different. Certainly I hated that 3-game stretch. I realized how significant it was in our positioning. But we'll be faced with challenges moving forward. And in some ways they'll be similar, but probably in a lot of ways they'll be different and probably require different moves and so forth. And so I think that's what I just respect about this, how fragile and challenging it is. That's one of the reasons why I love it.
Does it get more, because of that, does it get more difficult to turn the page on each season? When we asked you in Latrobe, you mentioned, I know I have more football behind me than in front of me. Does that make it more difficult to kind of move past the disappointment?
You know, it comes to a screeching halt. I don't know that you have an option. You know, Sometimes I don't want to move past it. Sometimes I just want to be here for a minute in an effort to improve. And so that's probably where I am, honestly, as I stand here today.
Mike, I think last offseason, the Steelers signed, it was organization, the most free agents they ever had, or you guys had. Obviously, the first offseason, the new GM, is that sort of a new guy going forward, or is that kind of circumstantial? Do you see more veteran-type starters?
Again, we're really at the very infancy of planning. We're open to doing business, certainly, and utilizing all things at our disposal to put together a strong group. We had some success in free agency last year. But as I've mentioned repeatedly in the past, oftentimes our interest in free agency really is just a continuation of draft interest that we might have had in someone. I think back to a decade ago, man, meeting Allen Robinson and his family up at Penn State at his pro day. Kevin Colbert and I stood in the parking lot and talked to Landon Roberts and his parents for an hour after the Houston pro day when he came out, eight or so years ago. And so we're certainly players and open to being players in free agency. But we like to track these guys. We like to track these guys as far back as we can track them and have that background, that knowledge of who they are. And usually that's the basis of our interest.
Very many, maybe any of your starters that are currently scheduled to be free agents, how does that change how you go into that part of the process if you don't have very many of your own guys to take care of?
I don't know that it does. I just think, we strip ourselves clean this time of year, man, and assess any and everything and build. And so I don't know that posture changes at all.
Mike, when you talk about getting to know players through the draft process, how much attention will you be paying to the quarterbacks this draft season?
I always do. I'm a personnel buff. I don't think you can be in this profession, this coaching profession, and not be into personnel, not have knowledge of people that play for you, that play against you, and particularly at the quarterback position. I enjoy it.
Mike, does that interest in quarterbacks extend to free agency? I know typically you guys haven't brought in a lot of big name quarterbacks that are free agents. Does that interest, when you look outside to bring in competition for Kenny, extend to that?
Again, I'd be speculating at this juncture. We're just at the early stages of it. I will acknowledge, obviously, that Mason Rudolph is scheduled to be a free agent, and we do have interest in doing continual business with him. The rest of it, man, is kind of speculative at this point.
Mike, are there players that you guys, that you saw progress into leaders for you guys at important parts of the season that maybe you hadn't seen that before for this roster?
Yes. But not that I am shocked by that. I think the journey oftentimes provides opportunity for growth, to develop, to rise within the ranks in a lot of ways, whether it's in terms of division of labor and roles or leadership, and certainly some of that transpired.
Are those players?
Man, I was really impressed by Freiermuth down the stretch, for example.
Mike, how is George grown? We asked you about him after the Indy game. Where have you seen him mature, and how do you keep that moving forward?
It has been in all areas, in football and in life, but there's a lot of meat on that bone, and I'm excited about continuing to be a component of that process with him.
How about Keanu Benton, and do you feel you've got something there with him?
It's interesting. I just had an exit interview with him. Really excited about the prospects of his future. He's really talented. I think he's capable of being dominant sooner rather than later. And so, the question is, how quickly can we make that happen? And what are our roles in doing so? And so we just had a real good conversation about what that looks like foundationally and how do we build.
Like, as far as the quarterback position, would there be any interest in bringing in a veteran to kind of help mentor Kenny through this next stage?
I'm speculating at this juncture, and I want to stay away from that. I hadn't had any legitimate conversations about building for 2024 at this point. And so, I'm trying to stay away from some of that speculative things.
Last month or so, you've been so complimentary of the guys off the couch, the Eric Rose and the Miles Jacks. Do you feel like those relationships could continue into the next year?
Certainly.
Like DeMarvin Leal was a third-round pick before he ended up scratched the last half of the year. Do you feel like there's a plan or a path for him to move forward as a more regular contributor?
There certainly is, but, he's got to be a component of that. Obviously, we put helmets on guys that we think are best positioned to help us secure victory, and he hadn't been a component of that. And so he's got some work to do.
Anyone else?
Mike, is punter a position that you'll look to maybe improve next year?
I'll acknowledge that Presley was not consistent enough, particularly down the stretch.
All right.
Any more contract questions? Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin after the press conference. Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews back with you. And he said he never considered taking off a season. He's in this to win. He wants the confetti for this group. And as far as extensions, he says it's nice, security's nice, but he's not job scared.
No, and he said, when the time is appropriate, it will happen. And he's moving about his business, doing the exit interviews, talked about the search for a new offensive coordinator, how that will happen outside. And the offseason it starts rolling.
Yeah, in case you missed some of it, we're going to play some of those big comments back for you. We'll analyze what Mike Tomlin said, and there are a lot of things that have to happen in this offseason. We'll do that as we continue here live on KDK Plus and all your Steeler digital platforms, so don't go away.
Calling all football enthusiasts. Immerse yourself in the captivating world of the Steelers at the new Steelers Hall of Honor Museum located inside Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of history where interactive videos, music, and engaging exhibits await. Feel the thrill of the broadcast booth as you make your mark on a historic Steelers play call. Plus, get up close to the iconic Super Bowl rings, game-worn uniforms, and priceless artifacts. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
See guys with garbage bags cleaning out their lockers and knowing that this locker room is going to change. Some of these guys will be here, some new guys, maybe changes with coaches and stuff. What kind of emotions do you have when it is the finality of the season?
Man, it's a terrible feeling. Guys putting their whole life into this, moving all over the country, coming in for one goal, being away from their families. Luckily, I'm fortunate to have my family here, but there are a lot of guys that sacrifice way more, and I'm just appreciative of the guys that have been here, coaches, staff, everybody that's had a seat on this bus to work this year. That's all you can be. Year in, year out, each team changes.
What's this offseason going to be like for you personally?
Getting healthy, no darkness retreats. I think, I think it's just getting healthy, getting stronger. I was dealing with this first day of training camp, so I think, I'm just looking to get back on the right footing and get back to having fun.
You still want to play?
Yeah, of course I want to play. In my mind, I wanted to play more than just one more season. I just got to get healthy first. I was, we talk about coming back from injury. I was told at the time it was a 12-week process, and we came back in 6 weeks.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
I want us to be versatile and dynamic. Obviously, we got to score more points. I want to be able to keep defenses off balance. I want to utilize all the talent that we have at our disposal. I'm excited about this process and the talent pool out there based on what I've seen thus far. I'm really open to kind of learning through this process, man, and seeing what people have to say about their visions. And so certainly have a vision of what it looks like, but certainly open to learning through this process.
That was Mike Tomlin earlier talking about his search for a new offensive coordinator. Of course, Matt Canada was fired midseason. It was Eddie Faulkner. It was Mike Sullivan taking over. And while those guys did a good job, and I would imagine he'll be back on this staff, he is going to look all over to find the next man, which is different than what he's done. He's promoted from within to Randy Fichtner and also Matt Canada. So there will be a bigger search for the new OC.
Yeah, and that process is probably beginning right now. He said that the decision on who the new OC will be between him, Omar Khan, and obviously Art Rooney II. I thought the interesting part that he said was utilizing all of the talent we have at our disposal. And that is unfortunately something we didn't see from the Steelers offense this season. There were games where George Pickens didn't even have a target. It just seemed very lopsided, not utilizing Pat Freiermuth. So obviously that is something that they want to see change for next season.
Yeah, Pat Freiermuth, who's a guy who, they may be interested in dealing with a contract, even though he's not in the same position of Najee Harris. And by the way, he did say that, he's very complimentary of Najee, but he did not give a direct answer about whether or not to pick up the option, although that's something down the road. The one thing he said is that Kenny Pickett will return as QB1 with the caveat that there will be competition. I can only assume he's talking about Mason Rudolph and maybe somebody else.
Yeah, and he was very blunt. Mason Rudolph will be a free agency, and free agency is for the player and the team, but did state the Steelers do want Mason back. It's just a matter of will it work out in terms of what Mason's looking for, or also is Mason going to explore and, see if there's anything else out there as well.
Yeah, we have a soundbite from Mike Tomlin talking about Mason Rudolph's performance and what he liked about it.
I don't think that any of us can deny what we've seen over the last month or so. I cannot underscore how impressive it is to be ready. Forget performance, man, to be ready, to deliver. And he was, and that preparedness showed.
Yeah, he was ready. He got called in and 3 straight wins into the playoffs. Also, when you look at the body of work of 4 games, Missy, the team averaged 24 points a game with him as the quarterback.
Yeah, I think not to mention the game in Baltimore was a complete downpour, sleeting rain, and then you go to Buffalo where it's really cold. But I think, the turnovers again are what really hurt the Steelers getting into a hole and not being able to fight back.
The one thing he said about Kenny Pickett more than anything is that this is a huge, and he said it with that tone, a huge season upcoming for Kenny Pickett. We'll talk about more of what Mike Tomlin had to say at his final press conference of this season, looking ahead to 2024 next when we come back right here to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
Talk about the emotions that they had last night.
Yeah, obviously it sucks. We had obviously further goals to advance in the playoffs, but credit Buffalo, they came out, got up 21-0, and we couldn't come back from that.
I know it's not too long after that game, but what do you guys have to do to maybe make that next step next year to go a little bit further?
I don't know. Just execute, put on the details when that time comes, and just individually try and get as much better as you can in the offseason, come back here and ready to attack.
You feel like you found it towards the end of the year? I mean, the last couple games?
Yeah, absolutely. The offense was clicking, the defense was clicking, and we just kind of continue to figure out what we did in the last couple games and apply it earlier in the season.
Also with the season ending, there's going to be a lot of change. Different faces in here. Just give me what's that like for a player knowing that a lot of these people, or maybe some of them, are even coaches going to be back next year?
Yeah, it sucks. Obviously, this was a close team, but it's part of the business, and not really too focused on next year right now. Just kind of reflecting on this past year and learning lessons from that.
Pat, how about just for you individually? What was the season like going through injuries and some of the questions and inconsistencies with the offense as a whole?
Yeah, it was frustrating. Obviously, beginning of the year was not what I envisioned myself. Being out, missing 5 games with a hamstring, and definitely wasn't what I wanted initially. But I thought myself I came a long way in the year, and when I got healthy. And obviously, I think the offense found its groove later in the year, which was big time. Just got to continue to build on that in the offseason.
Historically, the Steelers would have contract negotiations and talks with somebody like you entering the final year of their deal. Is that something you imagine would happen and you look forward to a possible extension?
Yeah, I love Pittsburgh. I want to play the rest of my career. But that's not really what I'm thinking about right now.
Calling all football enthusiasts. Immerse yourself in the captivating world of the Steelers at the new Steelers Hall of Honor Museum located inside Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of history where interactive videos, music, and engaging exhibits await. Feel the thrill of the broadcast booth as you make your mark on a historic Steelers play call. Plus, get up close to the iconic Super Bowl rings, game-worn uniforms, and priceless artifacts. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
I'm extremely confident in him. I feel stronger about some of the intangible things than I did, obviously, when we first started doing business with him because I have evidence of it. He's highly competitive and professional. He doesn't run from challenges. He runs to challenges. I think that's evident in the way he plays, particularly at the end of close football games. He's got good framework to work with, and for a young guy, he's mature beyond his years. I'm excited about him.
Welcome back. That's Mike Tomlin talking about Kenny Pickett, who he said will resume as QB1 with competition. So there's still a lot in this offseason, Missy. But, you know, the one thing about Kenny Pickett, when he was down in games and needing to bring teams back in the fourth quarter, he still continued what he did a little bit of that last year. So there's a lot there. However, when Mason Rudolph got into the game, he did not relinquish that role. So he talks often about competition. You're going to have a lot of that. And I wonder how this preseason will play out up at Latrobe and also in the preseason games.
Yeah, they love competition. We see that all the time when they bring in different guys, whether it's via draft or free agency, but clearly the quarterback position is an extremely important one. We did see Kenny, though. This was the game after Matt Canada was fired. The offense did start to come alive a little bit more as well, but unfortunately with the interview, Mason got hot. As Coach said, they were riding the hot hand. And he kind of had to take a back seat. Coach acknowledged not easy for somebody. It's not easy for anybody that's in the National Football League and a competitor, but it will be competition. Said he met with him this morning for his exit interview. As you said, a huge year, a huge offseason for him, but said that the way that he's wired, he's looking forward to him going through this process.
And I think that's a great point you mentioned, this specific game. When they went to Cincinnati, first time with Mike Sullivan calling the plays, he had his best game of the season. It could have been 3 touchdown passes if not for a drop in the back of the end zone. So he never got that chance to continue with that. But when Rudolph came in, I think Tomlin made a good choice. He said, I'm riding a hot hand, and why not? Because that's, at that point, what they were facing. They needed a win, and when you start piling wins, he's not going to deviate from that, even though Kenny Pickett was healthy to come in. Normally a starter gets in those situations, but in this case, he didn't.
No, and they were in that position where you were basically in the playoffs for the last 3 games of the regular season just to get into the postseason, and they still needed help.
All right, we have plenty more to get into. We'll do it after this break, right here on the Mike Tomlin Press Conference, the final one of 2023.
Gear up with game day necessities at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline gear, jerseys, terrible towels, memorabilia, and custom exclusives directly from the team. You can also gear up online at shop.steelers.com.
Frustrating was it for you to be dealing with the knee injury going into a playoff game and to not be able to contribute on the field?
I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. It's very frustrating to not be able to take part. But excuse me, I was trying my best. Jeez, please. I was trying my best to help those guys along as much as I possibly could, and try to get back. Obviously, wasn't good enough to get back, and just is unfortunate not to be able to put my hand in the pile on game day.
Do you have to do anything other than rehab this offseason to kind of get healthy already?
No, I feel like my knee will be feeling good in a couple weeks here, so it's not an issue moving forward.
TJ, from your aspect, what do you think needs to change, and what do you think you can build on as a group from this year?
I think it's still too fresh to really fully diagnose all of our issues. There's going to be plenty of things that we need to fix. I think there's some things that we did well. Obviously, I can only really talk on the defensive side of the ball, but proud of some of the things that we were able to do this year. And I mean, we were depleted, and we were able to overcome a lot of injuries this year. A lot of young guys stepped up. A lot of guys that we brought in this offseason were able to put their hand in the pile and provide some good sparks, some good juice and plays for us. And I think those are some of the positives that touch on.
And you come in here and you see guys with garbage bags cleaning out their lockers, and you know this might be the last time you might see some guys. The locker room's going to change. What's your kind of emotions of the finality of everything here today?
Yeah, it's every year you're so involved and you're so bought into the week to week. You know, we weren't expecting to be in this situation, so there were no flights booked for what happens if we lose. All that type of stuff. You're just always thinking you're going to win. You're going to be here today working on your game that week. So when that season ends the way that it does, it's so abrupt. We're so used to having that regimented schedule. You come in at 7, you do your whole daily routine, you go to practice, you work out, you go home, and you do it all over again. So when the season's over, it all happens so quickly, and all of a sudden now we're all sitting here. We have nothing to do for the next couple months. So it's strange, it sucks, it's not fun, but only one team gets to feel great after the season.
Experience the legacy of the Steelers like never before. Step into the Steelers Hall of Honor Museum at Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of Steelers history, rare artifacts, and interactive exhibits. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
I'm really excited about the trajectory of his career. Probably the most impressive component of where he is mindset. He wants to fight. He wants the tough coverage. He's extremely competitive in that way. And that's a great place to build from. He's got growth obviously ahead of him, but that's real solid.
Mike Tomlin with high praise for Joey Porter Jr. He did want the big assignments, went to him several times and said, I want that guy, and he's done largely a good job. I thought he got hit from behind, should have been penalized, and now he's in concussion protocol. But that's, he and guys like Broderick Jones certainly are guys on the, and even Keanu Benton, who had a really good rookie season, and he spoke highly about him as well.
Yeah, and you really saw them start to come on as the season went. Joey Porter wasn't anointed the starter right away. He kind of had to work his way through sub packages before taking over officially and then going against the opposing team's #1 wide receiver. Right. But for Broderick Jones, you saw him inserted into the starting lineup at right tackle, not left tackle, and we saw the run game come to life. As you mentioned, Keanu Benton, even Spencer Anderson, he didn't play, but he still made the team, somebody they were excited about. And you know, Corey Trice, he's the forgotten guy because of when he got hurt, but Coach Tomlin always referred to him and Joey Porter as the avatar cornerbacks. So interested to see, you know, what he's going to look like this offseason, similar to Calvin Austin III, where your rookie season was kind of, you know, a draw and you really start year one, year two.
I think that's a great analogy, and Corey Trice has some high marks. A lot of people like what he could do at the cornerback position, and getting him back healthy would be like an additional guy who you don't have to draft this year because he's already here. Broderick Jones was somebody who really ignited the run game, and I wonder what that means. Chuks Okorafor was kind of indecisive about what happens next in his career because he signed here after 2022. They gave him some pretty good money, and he sounds like he may have to move on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be, you know, happy if you lost your starting job as well, and you go from being one of the guys in the line to being there in case of emergency or coming in for, you know, the big packages. But Coach Tomlin did say he's undecided on what side Broderick Jones will play or start, and it appears both are, you know, options, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, and Dan Moore continues to just, you know, do his job over there, even though a lot of people said when Broderick Jones got in this lineup, it would be at left tackle. It wasn't. It was at right, I think largely because of how Moore played at that position. We'll take a break, come back, and wrap up this show. Mike Tomlin, final press conference of the 2023 season, right after this.
Experience the legacy of the Steelers like never before. Step into the Steelers Hall of Honor Museum at Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of Steelers history, rare artifacts, and interactive exhibits. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
Jalen, did you guys find something with Coach Falk and Coach Sully, the way that was set up late in here? Did they sort of untangle some stuff and find ways to make you guys productive? And are you hopeful that maybe, is there a part of you want them to, would you like to continue those roles going forward?
Yeah, I would like for them to continue. I thought they did a pretty good job, you know, with it.
you could tell they left everything on the line. They were willing to do whatever it took for us.
Jalen, do you think you guys need to have any more rules around structure, discipline, things like that in the locker room to keep guys accountable, things like that working during the week?
Yeah, maybe just a little, just got to come together as a group and, have a better understanding of each other and, move from there.
Is that something you guys were able to do over the last 3 weeks of the season? Was that part of the difference that happened?
Yeah, I'd say it's gotten better. But, we can always move forward.
Jalen, who led that improvement in making that better?
You could just tell, it was by leading example. You could tell players were willing to buy into that and sort of show them.
Is that something that has to happen earlier in the year? How does that happen earlier in the year so that it doesn't come down to the last 2 weeks?
Well, I'm hopeful. We see what we do, when it does take place, and so we come in next year with that same mindset, build off a relay.
You say that coincided with the winning streak at the end?
You said what?
Did that coincide with the winning streak at the end, or was that at the
Yeah, yeah, I'd say it did.
What sparked that, do you think?
Just the camaraderie we built.
That improvement that you mentioned, is that more of, I think, the way guys are playing on the field on Sundays, or more of how they're practicing and taking accountability here throughout the course of the week?
Yeah, I mean, I would say both. Obviously when you're producing, you have a better feel and you start, you see your teammates having fun doing it, and then it just, energy is contagious.
Jalen, for you personally, does it feel like going into this offseason there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding this offense?
No, not really. I think we know where we stand, and I think we know what to do, and so we're gonna keep building with each other.
What did you see out of Mason the last 4 weeks? Do you hope that he's a guy that comes back, maybe competes for the starting job?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm expecting that. To be honest.
Gear up with game day necessities at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline gear, jerseys, terrible towels, memorabilia, and custom exclusives directly from the team. You can also gear up online at shop.steelers.com.
All right, welcome back. Before we go, again, one of the things Mike Tomlin talked about was TJ Watt, who was injured. He said he probably would have been able to play this week had they played in Baltimore. What was your biggest takeaway? I thought the offensive coordinator search, knowing that it's 3 people involved in making this decision. It's Mike Tomlin, it's Art Rooney, it's Omar Khan.
I think the fact that they're starting outside and they're going to bring those guys in and try to figure out what to do, it's a huge thing in terms of determining who's going to lead your offense.
Right, because the last 2 have been in-house promotions. And that's going to do it for us, Missy. It's been a lot of fun. I always look forward to it. Thanks very much.
You got it.
Steelers aren't the only ones not playing this week. Dallas Goedert is out of the playoffs as well. That's for Gerard Schaefer. Good night.